Now, what's going on now, I wouldn't necessarily call it a crisis. Honestly, I just think it's more of just a leveling out of the population. Also, we don't need as many foreigners here, regardless. So that, I mean, it helps. I've said in other videos that at least in this time period, we need, for now, the wages to be higher. So it helps give us a more leverage since there will be less people. Now, hopefully, when things get back to normal, if they ever do, in regards to inflation, then, we can talk about baby booms. And if we change laws, great. Now, a few data points to kind of look at in the beginning. So the U.S. fertility rates in 1960, it was 3.65, and that's births per woman. In 2023, it was 1.61, and the typical replacement rate would be 2.1. So fertility has definitely dropped, and it's definitely below replacement rate. Now, they're pushing this as like this is the worst thing ever, and that's part of the reason why they're trying to bring in Indians, Latinos from, South America, all sorts of people. It's because they need basically a slave class. That's how it works. If you have a bunch of people coming in, lowers wages, makes people easier to coerce. The folks from other cultures coming in are easier to manipulate and cajole and intimidate, and they don't have the same values as us. So there you go. There's your recipe for your total globalist victory, unfortunately. Now, what's causing, I would say, this fertility crisis? Personally, I always take it back to the laws. Around the 1960s and definitely the 70s, no-fault divorce, the proliferation of abortion, all of the contraceptives, feminism, the sexual revolution, which is mostly skewed towards women, that cause all these issues. Child support laws, the alimony laws, they didn't really start changing until the 60s and 70s. So the men of the past in America did not have to deal with a lot of this stuff. And then inflation. If your money isn't worth anything, it makes it very hard for people to want to have kids, let alone afford them. And I know, at the end of the day, if you budget right, there's always a way to make it. But when you're telling folks, in order to buy a halfway decent house, at least at current prices, you're going to pay $350 minimum. And most folks aren't making, $100K a year. They're making I think the average income in America is like somewhere around $50K. And then you have to add on insurance and then things that happen to kids and then paying for the birth of child. It's just insanity. And for just another couple of data points to kind of anchor some things. So this is going to be the U.S. money supply, M2, in billions. In February 1959, it was 287.7. In 2025, April, it was 21,862.5. That is insane. So your money, as I said, your money's worthless, and now you got to take care of the family on it. And another thing people are absolutely not talking about is the vax. Now, at least on the women's side, I do know that the mRNA vaccines for COVID did disrupt a particular protein that causes the formation of a fetus in a woman. And there were multiple stories of women who were pregnant, they got the vax, they had a miscarriage. So that's one thing. And then now here's the thing: I don't know the data on or the information about men with the mRNA vaccine. I don't know if it makes them infertile, makes their sperm not work. Who knows? But these are, another thing people need to consider. And the BS solutions that they've given us, the IVF. So we're gonna take 36-plus-year-old women and try to make them have kids. So they're older mothers, and the pregnancies are essentially, it's a geriatric advanced age pregnancy, essentially. That's very unwise. That's going to lead to more birth defects, neurological issues with the children. The rise in autism is partially, it's not just the vaccines. Why is a 40-year-old woman trying to have kids? And then the handouts. If you have 5 babies, you get, why are we essentially incentivizing single motherhood? And then, if you have kids, I'm somewhat more on board if they're married, but at the end of the day, I'm not really here to subsidize your marriage. I mean, your family. Like, if you're married, that's the husband's job. I'm not your husband, lady. So there's that. And I think the real solutions, as I said, we're going to have to actually make a society that men want to bother to pay into, want to actually support, actually want to hold up and make functional. So we're going to get rid of affirmative action, get rid of the alimony and child support laws. Because especially when it comes to affirmative action, the whole mating mismatch stuff, it's essentially women in positions that they typically would not be in, and then their hypergamy kicks in. They think, oh, well, I make 50K, he makes 50K, I need to go find a man who makes 70K. When you don't necessarily have the attractiveness or the disposition for a guy who makes significantly more. And there's too many women out here thinking they deserve a 6'2", 6'4", the blue-eye finance guy. Some of you are mid and obnoxious. Okay? Just, hey. If this is your first time hearing it, just think about it. But I think right now, we are in kind of a sexual marketplace / population leveling out period. And it is going to give us some leverage. Because I think the elites, they intended to push all the COVID stuff. It was a depopulation plan, but I think it happened a little too well. And the people are acting in ways that they haven't exactly foreseen, and so it's screwing up their plans, which is great. Anytime the elites and world controllers, there's a monkey wrench being thrown into their plans, I'm all for it. Now I would say hold the line. And I still support getting married. Just have a prenup and don't have kids. My name is Jarrell. Over and out.